Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. And while it was the SmackDown side of things at last weekend's Clash of Champions pay-per-view that made that show a little bit enjoyable, they gave us some good stuff. They got some good storytelling going on. Tonight, in the follow-up show, in this episode of SmackDown, we got a lot of the same things going on. Maybe a little bit too much of the same things going on. SmackDown has some good things going for it, but there were still plenty of things wrong with this show that we can talk about, and we are going to do just that right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and it is time to bring the hammer down on this week's edition of SmackDown, only on the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, right here on Sledgehammer TV. Let's do it.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
Now, I am not the type of guy that would ever sit here and defend creative, but tonight's episode is proof that these guys are handcuffed. They're being handcuffed. They're kind of afraid to move anything forward. They can't move anything forward because they don't know what pieces are going to be on the board following the draft that is going to be taking place over the next couple of weeks. And if they don't know what the plans are for the draft, they can't effectively put together a show that's going to mean anything. So as a result of that, we get a show that's just full of rematches and stale, played-out feuds that none of us really want to see continuing. That is not the case as it pertains to the only differences between Raw and SmackDown, which right now are the Reigns and Uso storyline, the Intercontinental Championship picture, and Alexa Bliss and The Fiend. Three intriguing stories that give you a reason to want to sit and watch this show. And while they still did well with these three particular angles that made SmackDown a better show, there were plenty of things wrong with it. All of those things were very good tonight. Everything that they did, from the Tribal Chief ceremony that kicked off the show right down to Alexa Bliss and The Fiend, it was all a lot of good stuff. But in that good stuff, there are some mistakes. I mean, number one, building up Jey Uso, especially if you're going to give him another shot at the championship at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view coming up at the end of the month. Building him up and giving him an important win, that's like a no-brainer. That seems logical and something that is good for him right now. You don't want to waste all the heat that this story is building and not build a star out of Jey Uso in a singles capacity anyway. But then on the flip side of that, you had him beat AJ Styles. Now, as good as that is for Jey Uso, where does that leave AJ Styles? AJ Styles has been losing for weeks now. He lost his Intercontinental Championship. Since then, I don't even remember the last time this guy's won a match. And now here he is tonight, completely out of the Intercontinental Championship picture, showing up to fight Jey Uso in the opening matchup on tonight's SmackDown, and loses clean to Jey Uso, which only tells me that AJ Styles most likely is going to be traded from SmackDown. How do you revive him after his last month and a half on this show? It's almost impossible to do so, and maybe he wants to get the hell away from Wobbly Walrus Paul Heyman, so he's going to hit the bricks, and I would be shocked if this draft goes down without AJ Styles switching over to the red brand. And it may be the best thing for him, and it would be nice to see him back on Raw again, because Raw is just a mess and they could use as much talent over there as possible. But when it comes down to creative, they're not as much handcuffed over a Monday Night Raw as they're just completely and totally retarded. They'd probably have AJ Styles join Retardribution, and we don't want to see any stupid things like that. But the match between AJ Styles and Jey Uso was very good. It did its job. It put Jey Uso over, and it gives you a reason to believe, I guess, he can challenge Roman Reigns for the championship despite what we've seen on Sunday. Let's talk about the Tribal Chief Coronation ceremony, which I thought was really great once we got past the Paul Heyman part. Tonight's opening segment, as good as it was, it serves as another example as to why he does not need Roman Reigns, that is. He does not need Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's part of this promo, while it had some historical accuracies and it talked about the family lineage, it was completely and totally unnecessary. Unnecessary. I understand he's the master of ceremonies for the tribal chiefs, or whatever. I get that part. But what he said was kind of just boring and useless, and it feels weird hearing him talk about Roman Reigns this way, saying he's known all his life that Roman Reigns was going to be the one. Meanwhile, he spent the last 5 years with Brock Lesnar making sure that that didn't happen. Kind of contradictory. I hate Paul Heyman's involvement in this, but once it got down to Roman Reigns and Jey Uso's confrontation, once again, things got very intense. Things got extremely personal, and I loved everything that Roman Reigns was saying tonight. He came off as if he's not even the bad guy. He's trying to tell everybody that, listen, I'm doing what's best for you. All I wanted to do for you, Uso, is bring you up to the top with me, elevate you with me, but you were never going to take my place at the top. And he's being genuine with him. And Jey Uso still had his eyes fixed on the belt, which was on Roman's shoulder. And Roman's like, yo, I'm telling you all this. I'm pouring my heart out, and you still want this belt? You want it that bad? I'll give you another shot. And the match for Hell in a Cell is pretty much made. But it was a very intense moment. But I did laugh a little bit because Jey Uso came back at Roman Reigns, and he says that if it wasn't for Jimmy throwing in the towel at Clash of the Champions, he would have ended up winning the Universal Championship. Now, I think that Roman Reigns beat the sense out of this kid. Or maybe he blacked out and don't remember, and he had an alternative dream of some sorts while he was laying half dead in the ring as Roman Reigns was pummeling him like he owed him money. And this guy's dreaming about championship gold. Oh, I came this close. Yeah, maybe you did, but at the end of the night, there was no way, if that towel wasn't thrown, you were going to be alive the next day. I just thought that was a little silly of him to say. Clearly, there was no way he was going to win the championship, but he could have said something more along the lines of like, listen, I know you beat my ass, which he did, but I'm just going to do better next time. I'm going to be better than you. I'm never going to stop until I get that championship. Don't say, well, I would have beat you last week even though you almost murdered me. And there was no way anybody gave him a chance. We all knew the outcome of that match. I just found that line a little bit silly. But for the most part, this was a very effective opening segment. It gave you a reason to believe in Jey Uso getting one more match for the championship because Roman Reigns is allowing it. In fact, Roman Reigns said that if he accepts this challenge, which he did, there's going to be even more at stake this time. I don't know what could be even more at stake than being the head of the table of the family and the Universal Champion. I don't know what could make it more than that, but he promised that it will be, and it's going to have the highest of consequences. Now that threw me for a loop because that could pretty much mean anything. Is he going to excommunicate Jey Uso from the family? The only reason he didn't want to accept this tribal chieftainship was because Jey Uso would not bend the knee. And until Jey Uso bends the knee, he doesn't want to take the tribal chieftain ceremony thing seriously at all. Very intense, very good opening segment. I enjoyed a majority of it. The match that followed was Jey Uso and Aj Styles, which we already touched upon. Told you guys it was a good match because it was a good match. It was just a very surprising ending. I thought maybe Roman would have cost him the match or something would have happened. Maybe Paul Heyman would have pulled some shenanigan card, but nothing like that happened, and Jey Uso beats Aj Styles. The rest of the show, aside from the Fiend and Alexa Bliss, which we'll talk about in a minute, was just more repeats. More repeats. It was Sheamus squashing Chad Gable. The only reason that match was taking place was so that Big E could pop up in the corner and challenge Sheamus to a match at Hell in a Cell. Now listen, You could have done this without having this ridiculous squash match with Chad Gable, who's a good guy. One week he's with Constable Dickhead, one week, and now this week he's just Shorty G again, and he's still fighting Sheamus, who's still probably calling him short, and it's just too much of the same old crap. Speaking of Constable King Dickhead, we didn't only see a rematch with him and Matt Riddle once again on free TV on SmackDown tonight. We seen them paired up in a 6-man tag with another feud that nobody wants to see going on. The Sushi Boss, Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro versus the Lucha House Party, who apparently are breaking up again. At this point, Matt Riddle got the win for them in this matchup, 3-on-3. Who cares? None of this matters. Nobody wants to see this crap. We also had Otis versus John Morrison. Anytime anything that has to do with Miz and Morrison show up, I don't care. I don't care. They're a joke. This whole thing with Otis and The Miz and the whole courtroom thing, and they're going to try to press charges and gain control of the Money in the Bank. I hate all of this. And this feud to me is meaningless. Otis lost his girl. These guys are coming at him for his contract. A contract he probably should have used already, let's be honest. Because is he going to win? No. We all know he's not even going to sniff a championship. Even if he jumps over to the other brand, you think they're going to give Otis the championship over a Drew McIntyre? No. It's just wasting away on him, but it's not going to do us any better being around the waist of The Miz or John Morrison. It's all meaningless. And I see people online talking about how interested they are and how great it's going to be to see the court case, on TV, seeing The Miz and him battling court. Who cares? Why do you care about this? I want to watch wrestling. I don't want to watch courtroom bullshit drama. Nobody cares. Otis defeated John Morrison, by the way, if you give a shit, which you probably don't, because I know I didn't. For some reason, they decide to make Kevin Owens part of SmackDown tonight for the, brand invitational open season. Who gives a shit who works where anymore? We got the draft coming, but is it even going to matter? Because every 2 months we're going to have some wild card invitational brand split killing bullshit like this. Anyway, they have the Kevin Owens show on SmackDown tonight for him to talk to Alexa Bliss. Now, the whole reason he wanted this interview, apparently, was that he can get into the mind of Alexa Bliss, because he believes if he could figure out Alexa Bliss, it might help him figure out what's going on with him and Aleister Black, which I think is ridiculous because it is not the same thing at all. Is Aleister Black being possessed by the Fiend? Is Aleister Black being taken away and looking at Bray Wyatt with big doe eyes and being all swoony with him somewhere that we are unaware of? Maybe they filmed these things and they haven't shown them to us yet. How is this similar? Aleister Black's story is very clear. He lost his eye due to his involvement with the Monday Night Messiah and Rey Mysterio and all that shit, and he's blaming Kevin Owens for not coming out to help. So he's holding Kevin Owens responsible in part for something that happened to him physically. There's nothing deeper than that. There's no similarity to Alexa Bliss losing her mind. So that, I thought, was a foolish reasoning for him to be put in this position and for him to have the KO show on SmackDown. Because I want to figure out Aleister Black. I'm going to go talk to the one girl that's losing her cotton-picking mind. That's going to help me. It makes no sense to me at all. However, on the flip side of this, as we mentioned, this was actually great. Alexa Bliss's performance here was great. Her acting is getting better and better with this. I think she believes in this, in what she's doing. And that has a powerful effect on a performer. When you believe in your character and you have a clear sense of what you want to do, it helps in your performance. And I believe her confidence in what they're doing is showing by the way she delivered all of her dialogue tonight. That being said, I feel like the person that wrote this segment probably just watched Stranger Things on Netflix. They probably just found it and binged watched all 3 seasons and really fell in love with it like I did recently, which is why it's fresh in my mind. But I'm looking at what Alexa Bliss was saying about why she's enthralled with The Fiend and Bray Wyatt, and I'm seeing A scene straight out of Stranger Things where Alexa Bliss is Will Byers and Bray Wyatt is the Demogorgon. Or the Mind Flayer. It was almost the same exact description. She feels Bray Wyatt around. She goes cold. You almost can't move. You're numb. You're this. You're that. It's almost verbatim the same dialogue that you get from that show. That being said, Alexa and Bray officially joining hands tonight after Bray Wyatt attacks Kevin Owens for no apparent reason. Kevin Owens didn't threaten Alexa Bliss. He didn't get in the Fiend's face. The Fiend just does what the Fiend does, and he snapped. And he went and he got KO in the mandible claw. And as a result of that, we get Kevin Owens versus the Fiend booked for the draft version show of SmackDown next week. And man, is that a terrible decision. Why you would do that match for the first time ever, Kevin Owens versus The Fiend, on a random SmackDown that doesn't need more to draw you to it than the allure of the draft itself. We don't need championship matches being booked. We don't need mega matches like this that should be happening on pay-per-view being booked. The draft is enough to get people interested into watching the show, because everything's been so shitty for so long that we want to see how they shake things up again. And if they stick to it, which is the most important part, which is probably not going to be what happens. So Alexa Bliss and The Fiend stare at each other. She stood up from her chair and they held hands. And then you had that little bleh thing from Bray Wyatt and they went to black. And now Alexa, I guess, is officially with him. So we're going to be interested to see where this is going now. It's one of the best things they got. This story and the Reigns Uso saga. Some really good stuff. Matt Riddle, Graham Metalik, and that we talked about that shit already. Matt Riddle got the win for that team. It was garbage. It was fast, and it didn't deserve my time. We saw the reveal of the mysterious blonde lady, which we all already knew was Carmella. And for some reason, all of a sudden, she woke up. She remembered who she is. She's blaming the fans for her being a suctitude person. Stuctitude? I don't know. She just was... She's a two-time champion somehow, and she got relegated to the joke section of the roster, and now we're supposed to take her seriously because she believes she's untouchable and she's not going to dance around anymore for the fans. I guess. We'll see. If she takes it seriously, maybe it could turn around and be something good. Maybe if she goes to Raw, because, you know, Mela is just meh. She's not money. She's meh. Maybe this will make her better. Who knows? You know who is better? Sasha Banks. We all knew Sasha Banks was faking this. At least I did. If you watched her promo against Bayley a couple of weeks back when she was doing her best D'Lo Brown impression while she was in a neck brace, not selling the pain at all, like she's faking. She's faking and it's fine because she's going to reveal it. And tonight she did just that. She delivered your standard promo. It was a good promo. She said the word bitch. Ooh. Which I think was the whole reason for this, other than the fact that they decided to announce a championship match between Sasha Banks and Bayley next week on the episode featuring the draft, which we just said isn't needed because we're going to watch because of the draft anyway, and you are wasting a match that has got so much story behind it, maybe the best story on SmackDown long term, the only story that matters in the women's division at all, and you're just going to throw it out there on SmackDown for free when this is easily a Survivor Series match waiting to happen. Wasn't that when their first NXT takeover was over the course of Survivor Series weekend, I believe? Even if that's not the case, that's where it should be done. Match number 1. Not at Hell in a Cell. Not in the Hell in a Cell, thank God, but also not on free SmackDown. But that's what I'm afraid is going to happen. I'm afraid they're going to have this match. It's going to have some bullshit DQ finish or some kind of schmoz ending. Then they're going to book Bayley and Sasha in the Hell in a Cell, at Hell in a Cell, to settle this. And we still have a long way. You got a lot of leg work you can do with this feud still. There's a bevy of other matches that you can have before you throw them in that steel structure. You got to build up to that. Ladder match, tables match, standard steel cage. You don't just jump right into the cell. The cell is needed to settle long-time rivalries, I understand that, but this really is just getting started on the main roster. And we are going to have their first matchup for the championship on SmackDown next week. There's just something wrong with that. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. And then the show ended with an Intercontinental Championship rematch, which is the only thing that was wrong with this, is that we've seen it pretty much 4 times in the last 2 weeks, some sort of encounter between Sami Zayn and Jeff Hardy. But this was a really good match. Sami Zayn delivered a couple of great promos tonight. He's very, very good at what he does. I was shocked that they gave the belt back to him, but if this is what we're going to get from him, then I'm fine with it. The Intercontinental Championship story continues to be one of the best things going, especially match-wise. Tonight there wasn't really much going on because, as we said, they're handicapped. They're mentally handicapped, and they're it's not the word I wanted to use. Handcuffed is what I was going to say. They're handcuffed by this draft. They don't know what to do, so they're just hit and repeat on everything. But in this case, the repeat button was a good thing to go back and watch. This was a fantastic matchup. Sami Zayn gets the win over Jeff Hardy, retaining his championship. Next week, the draft begins on Friday night. Kevin Owens is going to go one-on-one with The Fiend. SmackDown Women's Championship will be on the line as Bayley defends against Sasha Banks. And Big E is going to take on Sheamus in a Falls Count Anywhere match. And we're going to have the court case. Otis is going to represent himself in a court case versus The Miz for a contract that he already has. I don't know. Next week, setting up to be a pretty important show, pretty big show. It might end up being a good show. Actually, I mean, all of the mistakes are already there. None of these matches really should be taking place, but they got to do something, right? They can't just have 2 hours of us watching them sitting around. Hopefully they don't bring back that dreaded fucking boardroom with the stupid robot. I don't want to see that shit again. Let's just do a straight up old school draft. I don't know, have Adam Pearce do all the picks for everybody. Because nobody's got a GM to make picks. How are they going to go about this? Stephanie going to represent Raw and Adam Pearce is going to be SmackDown, or vice versa? Is Shane going to show back up and have some sort please, let me not give them any ideas, because that would just be terrible. All in all, not a bad show, but not a good show. Too many repeat matches, too much shit we don't care about, but we did have some really big and important moments. Confrontation between Uso and Reigns and the continuation of that story. Alexa Bliss and The Fiend and Sami Zayn as your Intercontinental Champion. 3 good enough reasons to watch tonight's show. And in a 2-hour show, that's fine with me. One of the things about Raw is that third hour, man, it's just so bad. It's just so bad. If they went back to 2 hours for Raw, it wouldn't be as bad as it is, I'm telling you. Proof of that is in the Blue Brand, because 2 hours, they wrapped everything up, they showed us whatever they wanted to show us, and they already got me excited for some things going into the Hell in a Cell. How they execute from here is anybody's guess, but we got some interesting things going on SmackDown. Thank you guys so much for joining me once again. If you missed our review of the Clash of Champions, that is going to be up live on the channel. It has been up live on the channel, actually, as well as our retro review of the very first Clash of Champions. You could check that out if you missed it. Some of the newer subs might not know that I have some cooler shit on this channel that has been dated back a couple of years ago. So go check that out if you want to see something a little bit different from what you're used to here. We have the Monday Night Raw review, which, of course, was a 3-hour pile of poop hammers. Let's bring it up for Raw. Poop hammer for Raw, even on a SmackDown review. How about that? SmackDown wasn't that bad. It was just too many repeats. Too much shit going on. But whatever. I guess it's not creative's fault this week, but we'll see what they do going forward. My name, ladies and gentlemen, is Nick Nightmare. This is the team. Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue Snowball, the most important member of the team. As always, each and every one of you, which means now's your time to get involved. Smash that like button if you enjoyed today's show in any way, shape, or form. Share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world. And most importantly, if you are not a member of the Sledgehead family, hit that subscribe button right now. Get us over that 3,000 subscriber mark before we get to Hell in a Cell. That would be fantastic, and I would have you guys to thank, which I always do. I look forward to seeing your thoughts about SmackDown in the comments below once this video goes live tonight. Thank you all for your continued love and support of the coolest, littlest wrestling show on all of YouTube. That, my friends, is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Boom.